Two kids buried their sleeping father in the sand, and then playfully splashed a bucket of water over him. At that moment, a lightning bolt suddenly struck. Everyone was so frightened that they quickly fled. The two kids checked on their father, only to be shocked to find that the sand on him had turned into glass, and there was a large amount of blood flowing from his neck. They hurriedly called 911. When the firefighters arrived at the scene, they found the man's pulse elevated and his breathing weak, suspecting excessive blood loss. They needed to dig the man out quickly. The two kids felt very guilty, but they didn't understand why the sand turned into glass. But seeing this quickly comforted the two and patiently explained, lightning striking what sand turns the water to glass. Meanwhile, the other firefighters discovered that a piece of glass had punctured the man's neck right at the artery. Luckily, it was partly cauterized, but as the team dug him free, the glass had also cut the artery in his arm. They were able to tourniquet the arm and save him. He was then placed on a stretcher and prepared to be taken to the hospital before leaving. The man comforted his kids, saying he was fine and telling them not to worry. The springs on the trampoline suddenly detached and shot into the woman, pinning her firmly to a wooden door. Just moments earlier, the influencer mother had been live streaming a pinning her tail to a donkey challenge, but her son found it childish and turned to play on the trampoline instead. Unexpectedly, due to the trampoline's age, the rust-covered springs unhooked and launched, pinning his mother to the door.
911, what's your emergency? My mom's pinning the donkey!
Firefighters arrived quickly and found the springs had pierced the wood, covered in rust, virtually tetanus weapons. They immediately checked her condition. Eddie asked the woman to move her fingers, and she managed to do so with difficulty, indicating no tendon damage, just a small penetrating wound. The paramedic confirmed a miracle. Her vital signs were stable, the springs had missed her spine by millimeters, and both lungs had clear breath sounds, meaning no lung injury. She only needed wound treatment before transport to the hospital. Firefighters picked up a saw, initially planning to carry her out with the door, but the door was too wide for the ambulance. The captain improvised. The woman was placed on the fire truck's roof and transported that way.
Easy, guys. Easy. Watch the springs.
Good work.
Sorry, I treated you like a little kid.
Look, you're trending! You're gonna be internet famous!
The owner of a bowling alley went to fix Elaine. Her nephew at the front desk was so engrossed in playing with his phone that he casually started the machine. The woman's arm was instantly bent at a 90-degree angle, and a large amount of blood stained the bowling pins red. However, her desperate cries for help were drowned out by the noisy environment, until the customer picked up the second ball, staring at the blood on her fingers, finally attracting everyone's attention. Soon, firefighters arrived, but the nephew still clung to his phone in confusion. An employee rushed forward to guide them. While the woman screamed in pain, the firefighters quickly approached to assess the situation, and upon examination, they found the woman's arm had a compound fracture accompanied by severe trauma. Meanwhile, this employee brought a manual control device, guiding the firefighters to manually move the machine. However, another firefighter loudly stopped them as the woman's arm was already completely broken, and the machine was the only thing preventing massive bleeding. Moving the machine hastily would lead to uncontrollable bleeding. Immediate action was needed to transport the woman to the hospital. At that moment, a firefighter came up with an idea. If they cut the machine entirely and turned it into a makeshift stretcher, they could transport the woman directly to the hospital. The captain immediately adopted his suggestion. After a round of cutting, the woman's arm with the machine attached was completely removed and quickly rushed to the hospital. The boy was just playing with a drone, but unexpectedly, it alarmed half the city's firefighters. Everyone's faces were filled with shock, unable to imagine that a small drone could bring down a helicopter, which crashed onto the roof of an apartment building. At that moment, the helicopter was in pieces, with parts scattered all over the place. Even more despairing was that the helicopter's fuel was pouring into the building. Thick smoke was billowing inside the building, and if fire could break out at any moment, the firefighters had to act quickly. On the roof, Kelly and his team were trying to get the passengers out of the helicopter, but it was slowly slipping off the roof. The firefighters first secured the helicopter body, then began the rescue operation. Soon as the door was pried open, everyone was successfully rescued. Sherman and Otis found the propeller in someone's backyard. A woman was trapped underneath it, but the propeller was too heavy. The two of them couldn't move it at all. Otis had to go back for tools. Finally, Otis and Sherman got the rotor off the woman and sent her to the ambulance. At this point, they found a remote control drone stuck in the propeller. A couple came to the hospital. The husband, Tommy, wasn't feeling well. The wife, Hannah, informed the nurses that he had spent 3 days without eating. The nurses carried out different tests to figure out exactly what the problem was, but Tommy showed symptoms of a bacterial infection. The nurses told them not to worry, as they were going to start him on clindamycin, an oral antibiotic to protect him from any infection. They advised Tommy to rest for the next few days as he recovered. As he got off the bed, his ankle started to hurt. The nurse asked to take a look. After removing his shoe, everyone was terrified his ankle had become red, swollen, hot, and tender. The nurse gave him an injection to reduce the pain and made a small incision to collect a sample. Tommy was shocked when he saw what was coming out of his ankle. The nurse told him to wait for the results. After some time, Tommy started reacting badly, and his wife Hannah called for help. The nurses rushed in to check on him again. The antibiotics hadn't worked, and instead of recovering, he was getting worse. Later, the nurses discovered that Tommy had gotten the bacteria from his wife. Hannah couldn't believe it and insisted that she didn't have any symptoms. The nurse explained that she didn't have an active infection, but she had pneumonia, meaning Hannah had been contagious for 10 years. The nurses told her they would carry out more tests to find out exactly what it was. Hannah asked Tommy to forgive her since she had no idea about her condition. Tommy promised her that they would figure out how to deal with it together. With this, Hannah got relieved. Bobby, the sound of the heart beating tortures the man. He grabs a pencil from the table. Without hesitation, he stabs it into his ear. Soon, he is brought into the emergency room. Dr. Chui carefully takes the pencil out of his ear and examines his ear. The man's bone membrane is pierced, but it can be repaired with surgery. However, the man doesn't seem to care about that, only asking Dr. Chui to listen to his heart.
Sounds normal to me.
The man explains that during his service, his convoy was caught in an explosion and his back is full of shrapnel.
I wish I could tell you there's a physical reason for the problem. I can't see one.
Dr. Chui notices that the jelly in the tray on his chest is shaking, so he picks up the stethoscope and listens to his heart.
It's possible Mr. Coleman's right. I think we should get a chest CT.
The shrapnel scars on his back create an echo chamber, which amplifies the sound waves of his heartbeat, causing the vibrations to travel to his inner ear, which is why he hears the sound of his heart beating in his head. But there is no way to treat this condition. The only solution is for him to adapt to it. A girl lies on the floor. Her belly is as big as a balloon. The baby's head is already showing. But the mom is only 14 years old. Just now, firefighters got a call. The principal said it was just a teenager playing around. But the firefighters still checked it out. They were shocked to find a girl in labor in the bathroom. And that girl was the principal's daughter. She was so busy being the principal, she didn't even know her daughter was pregnant. The baby's head was already out. The firefighters had to deliver the baby right there. With one big scream, the baby was pushed out. The firefighter tore open the amniotic sac and sucked the fluid out of the baby's mouth. The baby was born safely. Only then did the principal arrive. Hopefully, she will pay more attention to her own child now. A man was showing his daughter how to use the nail gun. Suddenly, he accidentally shot a nail into his own chest. Seeing this, the daughter stood there in shock. Before she could react, the man collapsed straight to the ground. Then the daughter dialed 911. After telling the operator about the situation, she asked if she could pull out the nail. The operator quickly urged her not to move the nail, advising her to wait patiently for the rescue team. When the rescue team arrived, the paramedic quickly examined the man and found that his blood pressure was too low. The team cut open the man's clothes, discovering that the nail was positioned near the heart. After a thorough examination, they suspected pericardial tamponade, indicating fluid accumulation around the heart. The man was placed on a stretcher and prepared to be taken to the hospital. On the way, the man suddenly realized he hadn't said goodbye to his daughter. However, before he could finish his words, the monitor showed that the man had entered shock. The team quickly placed a breathing mask on him and began CPR. Just then, a large amount of blood sprayed from the wound. The firefighter continued with CPR. With relentless efforts, the man's heartbeat was finally restored. Fortunately, at that moment, the fire truck arrived at the hospital. But the sight of opening the door startled the outside teammates. In a separate incident, a 3-year-old boy had fallen into a well, but upon arrival, firefighters discovered that the well's opening was only 30 centimeters wide, too narrow for an adult firefighter to enter. While the firefighters were assessing the situation, the boy's 7-year-old brother stepped forward, declaring,
I'm his big brother.
Although still a child himself, he was the only one who could assist his younger sibling. The firefighters instructed him on how to communicate by using his feet to signal by kicking the ground.
A brave guy and a great big brother, okay?
Thank you.
Overcoming his fear, the older brother was lowered into the pipe by the firefighters. As he descended, he moved closer to his brother.
I'm coming down.
He communicated, trying to express himself. Upon reaching his brother, he handed over the rope and used his feet to signal the firefighters once again. Responding to the signal, they began pulling both boys to safety. Both siblings were successfully rescued. At that moment, the younger brother produced a book he had been holding. It turned out he had fallen while reaching for it. What a heartwarming display of brotherly love. Meanwhile, a young woman was contemplating leaving college to pursue her musical aspirations, despite her father's disapproval, leading to a heated argument between them.
Jitters, I just don't want to go to college. I don't want to be an engineer.
Just then, firefighters arrived at the scene where a steel beam was pressing against the girl's chest.
Can't breathe.
My daughter, you have to help her.
The captain made the decision to prioritize the girl's rescue. After 666 minutes of effort, she was successfully extricated. The focus then shifted to her father. However, as firefighters began to clear away debris, they were met with shock. The steel beam had already penetrated his body. He had been holding on, selflessly wanting his daughter to be saved first. The paramedic assessed him and concluded that his chances of survival were slim. The captain inquired if he wished to see his daughter one last time.
I don't want her to see me like this.
Let's get you out of there.
Wait. Tell her that she's good. She needs to keep singing. She has.
Should the daughter have the opportunity to see him one last time?